Thank you, but I spaced out introducing you because I saw Roxy Walker sitting there. And hi. Are you all friends? I know.
Yes.
Well, and Roxy's also Lenny's mom.
Yes.
You know, so
I know.
that's the reason for her to be here. But I'm saying Maya Angelou embodies all the, hey, that's Roxy Walker from the Jeffersons.
That's it.
You know, the kid in me, it won't let me work.
Of course. But that's what you do so well. You work so well.
Well,
you work well.
I'm glad you're here with me working this one out.
Thank you.
How did you meet Dr. King?
When I was very young and quite mad. Two things that you have to have together. You know, you have to be mad while you're young. Later on, it doesn't look good on you.
Yeah.
But I was young and mad. And
what were you mad about most of the time?
I mean, I was mad at injustice. And I didn't understand very much about it. I kept wondering, but why me? I'm a nice person. Why do people get up when I sit down on buses or streetcars or something? You know, why? I'm really very kind and funny, you know. But Godfrey Cambridge, who was my ace in Boone, and I decided we would do a cabaret in New York City and raise money for Dr. King. After we heard him speak, we were just bowled over. Yeah. So we started a theater and called Cabaret for Freedom. And we had some of the people who later became very famous and as famous as he. And we raised the money and gave it to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And then the man who was the head of the New York group, Bayard Rustin, who was a great hero, decided to leave, and many people came to look for the job as the Southern Christian Leadership Conference Northern representative. I was young. I had a big fro like that, and I went in to apply for the job. Now, people had gone who had doctorates from that and masters from that, and who were very full of themselves and quite capable, I'm sure. But I was young, and I was mad. So I went in to be interviewed, and I said, if you want someone who has letters behind her name, then you don't want me. But if you want someone who will get the job done, you'd be well advised to choose Maya Angelou.
Hello.
Hello. I'm happy that the people saw over my ignorance and insolence, you know, and chose me. And they said, this child, please help her, you know, get the child in, give her a job. So I became the fundraiser, really. Yeah. But Dr. King, you see, he was we were of an age. We were a year apart. He was so wise and funny as well.
Now, see, you use the words King's magic.
Yes.
Is that what you mean when you say King's magic?
No, well, magic, yes, but only because he didn't forget people. You see, if you know enough, you take everybody into the room with you. When you are Senior Hall, when you walk out on this stage, you bring so many people with you. People who have loved you, people who have taught you, people who have supported you, you bring them. Now, Dr. King's magic depended upon his bringing everybody on the stage with him. So when he came out, people would say he has charisma. But what they really meant was that he had about 4,000 people all around him who were invisible to the audience. But when he came with so much stuff that you couldn't take your eyes off him. You see? And that's because he honored those who went before. And people live in direct relation to the heroes and the sheroes they have.
Let's take a quick commercial and come back, and you said sense of humor. You mentioned a couple things that I want to go forth on. We'll be right back with Maya Angelou.
Thank you.
Supreme Court of this nation is wrong. If we are wrong, the Constitution of the United States is wrong. If we are wrong, God Almighty is wrong.
Can you have a sense of humor when you live in that life?
You better. You'd better have a sense of humor. I never trusted anybody who tells me he or she is serious and acts as if he's put airplane glue on the back of his hand and stuck it to his forehead. Oh, no. Oh, no, that person didn't come to stay. Arsenio, if you have come to stay, to actually make a difference, you find every instance you can to lift your heart, to laugh. Because if you don't, I mean, from the moment you get up in the morning and turn on that telly, or turn on the radio, or pick up the newspaper, or pick up a phone, you think, oh, my God.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. King had a wonderful sense of humor.
Did he laugh a lot or did he say funny things?
Both. He laughed a lot. He told stories. And his stories always had a social, as far as those I know from him, had a social import. But they were funny. He told a story about a man who was running through the South, and he'd run to a farm, and he'd ask the farmer, did you see a group of young people running by here? The guy would say, no, I didn't. So he'd run a few miles. Did you see a group of young people running by here? No, I didn't. Finally, he got to about the fifth farmer. He said, did you see? So the fellow said, no, I didn't. He said, why did you ask me? He said, because I'm leading them. You see?
Oh, yeah.
You see?
Yes.
He always knew to keep a sense of humor and a perspective about who he was and the time in which he lived.
Yeah. Was he a guy, like that story, a born leader looking for a flock?
Oh, no, no, no. I wouldn't say that. I think it is true that some people are born great. Others achieve it, and some have it thrust upon them. Martin Luther King was all three. You see?
Yeah.
Because it was thrust upon him, he was ready for it. He was a man of his time, man of the energy, with the energy and the intellect and the humor. And I think this is really, it is important for young people to know that, if you don't mind me saying something.
Whatever you need to say.
I have a grandson who is watching this, who adores you. And I am always trying to show him how livable is the responsibility of being a black man in the United States. How painful and yet how livable it is. It is important that he know that, so that he would see the heroes, Martin King and Malcolm X and Medgar Evers, and say, oh, these were human beings. These were not people too large, so much larger than life that I could never dream to be that.
Yeah.
You see, it is important. Otherwise, the young men and women, white and black, forget that they've already been paid for. You see? And then they become cynical. And there is nothing more tragic than to see a cynical young person, because he's gone from knowing nothing to believing nothing.
What do you think Dr. King would think of our world and the state of our world right now?
I think that he would probably be out on the picket line again, right now, dreaming up ways in which he could influence all these young men and women, black and white and Asian and Native American, Spanish-speaking and Jewish, Arabic, all the young men and women. You see, his great dream was to turn that March on Washington, the last one, the peace march, the hunger, you know, the march for the hungry people, to turn it into a forum where all the people, as the poet says, all the Adams and Eves. Margaret Walker says, all the Adams and Eves, all the faces, where they could all come under his umbrella. So right now, I think he would be on the picket line. He'd be doing a sort of Pied Piper. Come on, kids, come with me, come with me. Let's make it a world for all the people, all the time. That was his dream.
He was against the war that was knocking at our door around the time of his death.
That's right.
A lot of people think his protest against that war had a lot to do with him not being
murder.
there.
His assassination. Many people think so. And I cannot say no. I think, though, a large portion had to do with the fact that he wasn't just protesting for black people. You see, if you only concern yourself with one group, another group can say, oh, well, I can leave them alone. But if you say that human beings are more alike than we are unalike, whether you are gay or straight, whether you are fat or thin, and you say, come under my umbrella, I'm with you, kid, then somehow you remove all the barriers for people to join and try to undo the cruelties and the murders and the brutalities of the past. So this is what he was about, you see? And I think that as much as his protest of the Vietnamese War, it had him killed.
Yeah. I asked you to bring a poem.
Yeah.
I don't want to let you get away without reading something.
Thank you.
And this one isn't one of yours.
No, this is really two poems. It's Leroy Jones' poem and Robert Hayden's poem. And they fit Dr. King. Amiri Baraka wrote, "The end of man is his beauty, and silence which proves a reference to my disorder. Your world shakes. Cities die beneath your shape. The single shadow at noon like a lie